They say the house always wins. But now the house is finally calling a 50-year bluff. They have an old saying, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." Well, Master Sun, what do we call it when we've been fooled for 5 decades?
Fool me for 50 years, Donna. Shame on the observer. Fool me for 51. Shame on the strategist.
The forever war era is gasping its last breath. Washington's talking results now instead of patience.
Tonight, we aren't just discussing a strike. We are opening the ledger. And once I show you the math behind the ghosts of the last century, you'll see that the bill is finally being collected in steel.
How did we get here? When wars become long, it's usually because someone was too afraid to win, or because the bureaucracy found a way to monetize the process.
It began when we forgot that time is a resource, not an audience. Look at the First World War. Railroads mobilized millions because the schedules demanded it.
A herd of elephants trying to dance on a frozen lake.
Precisely. They didn't fight for land. They fought because the train schedules told them they had to. A prolonged war is just a funeral that forgot to end because the paperwork got lost in the mud.
Then came the Blitzkrieg in World War II, the gold standard for fast and loud.
The ultimate triumph of vanity over reality. Germany tried to conquer the world on a 30-day trial of pure momentum. They shattered the supply chains, seized the fuel, but they forgot that time is the only weapon that never runs out of ammunition.
You can't blitz a Russian winter. It doesn't care about your hunger for prestige.
The Pacific began with Pearl Harbor, a brilliant tactical success that became a strategic suicide note. Japan reached across thousands of miles of empty blue water, but they forgot that a sword is only as dangerous as the arm that supports it.
And it ended in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the ultimate surgical correction.
The atomic bomb was the moment the ledger was forcibly closed. It wasn't just a weapon. It was the realization that if you cannot win with time, you will win by erasing the map. It turned the art of war into the accounting of extinction.
Then came Korea, the forgotten war.
Korea was the first time the players realized they didn't want to win. They just didn't want to lose. It was a stalemate frozen at the 38th parallel.
A border drawn in blood that never dried.
A permanent staring contest. Which leads us to Vietnam, where the grand strategy was eventually replaced by a calculator.
We tried to win by the pound, Master Sun, literally counting bodies like inventory, treating the jungle like a warehouse clearance.
The accountants of the jungle, managing the art of war with Robert McNamara's slide rules. They were counting sorties, tons of napalm, kill ratios, like they were stocking a grocery store.
But while we were auditing the body count, the ground was dissolving beneath us.
Because the enemy wasn't counting bodies, Donna. They were counting the generations they were willing to bury. When you fight a man who views time as his only luxury, your high-tech stopwatch becomes a noose.
Then the long wait, decades of holding our breath under the shadow of the hydrogen bomb, the Cold War.
A war of shadows between the West and the Soviet Union. Two giants locked in a cage, each holding a trigger to mutual assured destruction.
A twilight struggle, high-stakes poker with the end of the world as the ante.
A long twilight of espionage, proxy conflicts, paranoia. When the Berlin Wall finally fell, the world thought the ledger was clean. They thought they had reached the end of history.
Until the sky fell on September 11th. That was the alarm clock nobody wanted to hear.
September 11th was the moment the giants realized the cage was open. The enemy was no longer a state with a flag, but a ghost called Al-Qaeda.
The start of the true forever wars. Afghanistan, Iraq. 20 years chasing shadows through the dust, while the military-industrial complex kept the engines warm.
You cannot defeat a ghost with a hammer, Donna. When you shattered the old orders, you only gave birth to new nightmares like ISIS. You spent trillions to buy a stalemate, while the real players were rebuilding their ledgers in the East.
Which brings us back to now. Ukraine. War as a subscription service.
It is war as a spreadsheet. Factories against factories. Supply chains against sanctions. It's not about territory anymore. It's about who has the better credit limit.
But the math is getting messy, Master Sun. Iran isn't just a desert conflict anymore. It's the fuel injection for the BRICS engine.
Precisely. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer a local artery. It is a global bypass. Tehran knows that every drop of oil they move is a vote for a new currency. They aren't just fighting for a regime. They are holding the anchor for China's ambitions.
So if the Middle East bleeds, the South China Sea catches a fever?
The board is connected by invisible silk. A strike in the Gulf ripples across the Taiwan Strait. When you distract the eagle in the sand, the dragon moves in the water.
And now we have the spectacle. The next meeting between Donald Trump and Xi Jinping won't just be about trade. It will be about something larger moving underneath it.
He is bringing an invoice.
Sending China the invoice before he even leaves the runway. A bill for the regional cleanup in Iran? That's peak dark humor, even for him.
It is the ultimate subversion of the art of war. He isn't outmaneuvering their armies. He's out leveraging their checkbook. He knows that China cannot afford a broken Gulf, any more than they can afford a blocked South China Sea.
It's brilliant in a twisted way.
He's making the dragon pay for the eagle's fuel.
They will offer him a parade, but he will be looking for the wire transfer. When you allow your proxy to play with the nuclear threshold for 50 years, you aren't just shortening the timeline. You're finally putting the end into forever war.
So this short war is actually the ultimate restraint. A surgical strike instead of a 20-year occupation. A rare visitor in modern history. Almost suspicious.
Yes. Clarity is rare in leaders, Donna. Most prefer the profit of a messy process over the danger of a final result. But you've always preferred the result, haven't you?
Did you just praise me, Master Sun? I'll pretend I didn't enjoy that. But seriously, what advice would you give us? The ones just trying to drive through the rain without getting caught in the crossfire.
The greatest victory is not the battle that is won. It is the battle that becomes unnecessary. For people, the principle is the same. Do not surround anger completely. Leave a golden bridge for yourself as well. Peace begins when more than one future is allowed to exist.
Maybe the house only wins because we forgot we were allowed to leave the table.
Precisely. Leaving is often the first victory. But tell me, Donna, if you leave the table, who's going to drive the car?
Darling, I'm not at the table. I'm the one who owns the parking lot. Stay in the dark. It's the only place where the math actually makes sense.